me, you're in. Louie T. Welcome to the command post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So, I gave you a 5-piece yesterday to chew on, right? I'm going to slide you aside today, okay? So, I got another question for you, and this one is, I think, a big one. Because in my mind's eye, the biggest decision that needed to be made this offseason was that of the GM. That was going to supersede every other decision that was made. And you could argue that a very close second is the decision that they'll make at number 2. However, what they do it to head coach, offensive line, a lot of decisions, the coaching staff, offensive coordinator now that we know who the head coach is and he's on the defensive side of the football, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of decisions left to be made. So I ask you, now that the GM has been hired, now that the head coach has been hired, we know who he is. It's Dan Quinn. He's a defensive-minded guy. He may be bringing Joe Witt Jr. with him from Dallas to be his defensive coordinator. What is the biggest decision left of the offseason for you? Is it the offensive coordinator? It could be. Because they could decide not to take a quarterback at 2. That is in play, although highly unlikely. And let me just say this. I opened up phone lines a few nights ago, and it turned into a Sam Howell hotline, right? All of a sudden, all of the Sam Howell stands out there decided to band together, call in all at once, and make a plea and a push for Sam to get another opportunity. I don't know where the hell it came from. And I'm not telling you that you're wrong because I belong to that group with you. But I've moved on because I know the politics of this situation. I saw what happened last year. I am well aware that he didn't take advantage of the opportunity that was presented to him. Okay, no matter how bad the circumstances, how you were set up to fail. And we can sit here and agree to disagree on to what magnitude he was set up to fail. At the end of the day, you still can't perform the way that he performed at the end of the season. That was irreversible and irreparable damage that he did to his own reputation and career for the meantime. Now, again, he may ultimately get a shot somewhere else and flourish. And I think that is very possible. But the likelihood is they're going to take a quarterback at 2. But they could go in a different direction. What's the biggest decision left to you? Is it offensive coordinator? Who they decide to go with there? Because that can alter a whole hell of a lot as to how things go. Because the quarterback that they draft could be excellent. But if the coordinator stinks, we just saw that. Not that Sam Howell was a transcendent talent or anything of the sort, but he was talented enough, plenty talented to get it done in this league at a high level as a starting quarterback, I believe. And the offensive play caller ruined him, along with the offensive line. But it was more the play caller because you could have offset some of the deficiencies of the offensive line, or you could have played to their strengths because they were a better run blocking offensive line than they were a pass blocking unit. And even when they were pass blocking, I thought they did a good enough job if you would have run more shorter plays, more screens, more boots, more things that changed the launch point for the quarterback and not just let him sit back there as a sitting duck. He made it easy on the opposition to get after Sam. You hire the wrong guy as the offensive coordinator, and it could happen to this next quarterback. You don't fix the offensive line, it could happen to this next quarterback. That's what a lot of you are saying, right? So, offensive coordinator, is that the biggest decision left to be made this offseason? Free agency. We got a couple of pending free agents. Curtis Samuel, Kendall Fuller, Cam Curl. There are others. Joey Slye. We could go on and on with some of the guys that are pending free agents. There are free agents out there that some of you would like to add to this team. We've got plenty of cap space. There's no limit as to what we can do if we are aggressive in free agency. So is free agency the biggest decision that has to be made? The draft. Obviously, the number 2 pick is huge. That's probably where most of you are going to go with your decision. And I don't blame you. That's the low-hanging fruit. And I think I would pull that one down and take a bite out of it myself. Honestly speaking, you get that pick right if it's a quarterback, and it could change everything. You get that pick wrong, and we could find ourselves right back in this spot again in 3 years, okay? 3 or 4 years from now. So number 2 is pretty damn important. And hell, who knows? They could just trade back and say, no, we're not resetting that clock quite yet. We're not ready to start the clock on whether we got it right or not. We're going to go in a different direction, and we're going to use this pick for something else. Who knows? That decision, though, whatever it is, trade back, pick up more picks, trade up, go get the quarterback, stay at 2, take a quarterback. All of it still renders and looms large. Is that the biggest decision that's left to be made this offseason? What says you? What's the biggest decision left for this organization this offseason? Staff, OC, draft, number 2 overall pick, free agency, stadium. I don't know. I heard JP Finley, talking about they're moving forward, getting closer and closer to allowing that opportunity to maybe go back to DC as a possibility. They're getting closer and closer to maybe getting to a point where that's a realistic possibility, and we can start talking about that again. What says you? Let me also say this, though, because I was going to ask you guys another question that I found very interesting that someone posed during the show on Thursday night, which was, and maybe I will just ask you this question. You can answer it or you cannot. What is your definition of a successful first season for Dan Quinn in Washington? What's your definition of a successful season? What does that look like to you? That's a hard question for me to answer right now because I want to see what else transpires in the offseason. But everyone's definition of success looks different. But if you can answer that, if you feel comfortable answering that question right now, like I saw a comment in the comment section, someone reacting to that question that was asked, and I looked in the comment section, and someone said a successful season for me is defined by winning all the games that you're supposed to and beating 2 playoff teams during the season. So let's say we get our schedule and we look at 5 games and we say we should win those games. And again, that's a tough game to play. The schedule game is a tough game to play because you have no idea who had Detroit at 12-5. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I didn't have them at 12-5. I didn't. Okay. So you can play the schedule game because we play the AFC North. So are you beating Pittsburgh? Are you beating Cleveland? Are you beating Cincinnati? Are you beating the Ravens? Probably not. But 2 out of those 4 teams could actually suck ass next year. Who knows? We could get to Cincinnati and Joe Burrow could not be playing. Who knows? We could get to Baltimore. Lamar Jackson could not be playing. You just don't know. Right? At the end of the day, what defines a successful season for you? I'll just ask it anyway. I'm actually curious. If you have an answer, go for it. I'd love to hear it. If you don't, no worries, because I don't think I have one yet either. After I see what is done, the talent that they've acquired via free agency in the draft and what they did at the quarterback position, offensive line-wise, XYZ, coaching staff filled out now. How do I feel about those guys? That will determine how I ultimately feel about the upcoming season. It's hard for me to determine what success looks like right now. I mean, if you want to put a number on it, I think 7 wins is a good target, right? That'll put us right back to where we were with Ron Rivera when he started out, right? His first year, we went 7-9 and won the division. Now, the rest of the division was trash, and that's the only reason we won 7 games. Had the division been anywhere near where it is now, we probably win 3 or 4 games that first year with Rivera because We went 5-1 in the division that year, if I'm not mistaken. 5-1. We lost to the Giants. We went 4-2. We got swept by the Giants. And that always seemed like it's the case. Even when the Giants were down bad that year, we still couldn't find a way to beat them. But we swept Dallas and we swept Philadelphia. You're not sweeping Dallas and you're not sweeping Philadelphia. And so, Ronald, you probably could subtract at least 3, maybe even 4 wins from that first year if the rest of the division wasn't morbidly bad. But I'm going to say, just from a number standpoint, 6 or 7, probably 7 is the number that would make the most sense to me, that would make me feel good. But that could change, right? That could change. Who knows? You start the season off 5-1, 7 wins all of a sudden isn't a satisfying season now, is it? That's easy to say once you get to that point, but that's why I'm saying I just got to see what everything looks like before I can make that decision. But what's your definition of a successful season? Knowing what you know now, got Adam Peters, got Dan Quinn, what's a successful season look like for you? The first question, though, that I asked you is, what is the biggest decision left for this organization to make this offseason? Still got to hire an offensive coordinator, still got to fill out the rest of the staff. I would love them to get a really good offensive line coach, a great teacher, someone that's going to maximize whatever talent he's given. That's another big one, right? Still got to figure out free agencies, figure out what you're going to do with some of the guys that are here. Still got to figure out the draft. What are you going to do with the number 2 overall pick? A lot of decisions left to be made. What's the most important one? Leave it down in the comment section. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this installment of the Command Post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Until next time, enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll see you soon. Guys, have a good one.